Hi, welcome and thank you for listening to the Fearless Adventure Podcast. My name is Veerle and I'm taking you with me on a journey. In this podcast, I will give you a glimpse into my location-independent free life. I will tell you about the challenges of online entrepreneurship as a nomad, about finding the right mindset to grow, and how you can experience real freedom in your own non-nomadic life. My name is Veerle and welcome to Fearless Adventure. Hi there, I'm so glad that you're listening to another episode of the Fearless Adventure Podcast, and I just want to dive right in. I don't want to chit-chat, I don't want to tell a lot of stuff, I just want to dive into this topic because I know it is close to my heart. It's something all my clients go through. I think every person on the earth has felt this way. And the topic that I want to talk to you about is the imposter syndrome. I think it's something everyone experiences. And it is a topic that when clients come to me, we talk about a lot in the beginning. And that's why I wanted to record an episode about it, because I strongly believe that it's easy to cure. And to explain how you can cure your own imposter syndrome, I have to explain what it is. And what I did, I Googled it. And what Google says that imposter syndrome is that it refers to an internal experience of believing that you are not as competent as others perceive you to be. So it says something about your own belief and the belief that you have that others have of you. So take me as an example. I am a coach. And when I started out as a coach, I had this belief of what a coach should look like. So the reason at first why I didn't feel good enough and I felt like I was an imposter because I didn't have the experience. In my mind, a coach should have experience. So that was the first thing where it went wrong. And then it has to do with how others perceive me to be. So I thought if people know that I don't have the experience yet, they don't see me as a fit coach. So I have my own belief that I'm not competent when I don't have experience, or that I don't have the right education, or I don't know, I don't have the results yet to show for. So I believe something about a coach and then I project that belief on what others might think of me. So basically, it comes down to the belief that I have. And you can easily tackle that. But still, it has something to do with someone else as well. And when someone else is involved, you cannot, you don't have any control over that. You don't have control over someone else's thoughts. So it's funny because now that I'm saying all this, I'm thinking, is this right what I'm saying? Is this something that I should air? And I guess that's my imposter syndrome kicking in. I was this close to pausing it again. And this is already my fourth attempt to record this episode because I want to record it, but I'm still not 100% sure where I want to go with it. And then all of a sudden, my fear of speaking English is kicking in. I know my grammar is not good. I know that sometimes I have a stutter when I'm nervous. So I look at all these things that are not going well and I feel like an imposter, even though I know I'm perfectly capable of recording a podcast. I am perfectly capable of explaining what imposter syndrome is. I've done it before, I do it with all my clients. So, why is this fear kicking in? And I love it that this example just showed up because I was trying to explain it with an example that I wasn't feeling at the moment. But now the fact that I wanted to pause this episode is exactly what imposter syndrome is. And that's just such a good example. And I love it. All right. I'm gonna continue with some things I wanted to say as well because I had another example prepared besides this, and it has nothing to do with coaching. So I'm going to continue with this example of digital nomadness. nomadness. Funny. But yeah, I'm gonna continue with digital nomad as an example because I have been a digital nomad, but I have never felt like a true digital nomad. I always called myself a nomad because I wasn't working online as I thought a digital nomad should. Back when I started being a digital nomad, I was still organizing festivals, and for that work, I had to be in the Netherlands. It was a face-to-face job most of the time. So I didn't see myself as a digital nomad. I always felt like a fraud when I said that. So it had something to do with the belief of what a digital nomad looks like and what others think of that. Because I can say that I'm a digital nomad, and technically I was half of the time, but I was afraid of the judgment of others when they found out that it wasn't true 100% of the time. So it has something to do with my own belief and the fear of the social aspect of it, what other people might think of you saying who you think you are. So I think imposter syndrome is strongly connected with fear. You are afraid to fully show yourself. You are afraid that you are not good enough. And that is one of the most common fears on earth, that you're not good enough. So we all feel this from time to time. And the thing with fear is that fear is there to protect you. It's your ego that wants to keep you safe. Your ego wants to keep you in your comfort zone because from back in the day when we were still cavemen, it was safe when you were in your cave. It was your comfort zone. You knew that when you were there, you were not going to be attacked because that was your environment. You were safe. And when you would go out of your cave, you could run into a lion, and that's not safe. So your ego always tries to keep you safe, so it wants you in your comfort zone. But the funny thing is that growth can only happen outside of your comfort zone. Growth can only happen when you do new things, and new things are by definition outside of your comfort zone. So it makes total sense that when you are starting something new, for example, you start to be a coach, it makes total sense that your ego is telling you that you are not good enough because it is new and you have to show yourself to get customers. So it makes so much sense that your ego is telling you that you shouldn't do it, that you should quit, that you're not good as good as you think you are. And the imposter syndrome just kicks in, and it is natural. And the funny thing is, when I go back to my example of the digital nomad, the funny thing is that during COVID, I turned my business around into a completely digital thing. I'm an online entrepreneur, and now I am finally 100% a digital nomad. I have customers that I've never met, and that is being a digital nomad for me. It makes completely sense that you help people that you've never met in real life. It's all online, and I love that part about the digital nomadness. But the funny thing is that I still didn't believe that I was a proper digital nomad because during COVID, I was in the Netherlands living with my parents. So I could help people become a digital nomad. I could talk about it on the podcast, but every time I did it, I felt like an imposter. It wasn't good enough. It didn't feel right because I wasn't traveling at that time. So even though I was a digital nomad, it didn't feel right because of the imposter syndrome, because of the fear of what others might think of it. Because I knew I was a digital nomad. So my belief about the digital nomad was that a digital nomad is someone who works online and travels. And I was afraid of how others would perceive that because they would see that I was living with my parents in the Netherlands. So I wasn't traveling. My business was online. So that part was finally true. But now I wasn't traveling, so it still didn't feel right. And the thing is, with the imposter syndrome, it has to do with what you believe. Because if you change your own belief, it also changes how others might see you. If for me, the definition of a digital nomad was someone with an online business, I was fine because I had an online business. If my definition would be a digital nomad is someone who runs an online business and travels from time to time, I would still be fine because I was still house sitting within the Netherlands sometimes. So it all has to do with my own belief about a digital nomad. And I guess you this is true for all topics. When I was starting out as a coach, I was afraid that uh, I should have another education. I should do a coaching program. I should have this certificate that proved that I was a coach, even though I already am an art therapist. I'm a therapist by trade. Why would I need another example, another confirmation that I'm a coach? I know what I'm doing. But in my mind, a coach was someone who had the right papers to help people. And apparently, in my mind, being an art therapist was something different than a coach, even though I had at that point the experience to prove that I was a good coach. So it all has to do something with the belief that you have. And if you know that, then you can work on it. Because now I know that with the digital nomad example, I know that for me, a digital nomad has to travel from time to time, or a digital nomad doesn't have a home. That's the nomad part. At first, my doubts were about the digital part, and now it's about the nomad part. So I changed that for myself. Or maybe I didn't change it, I changed my circumstances because I've booked a ticket, I'm going away, I'm traveling again. So now I finally feel like a true nomad again. But the funny thing is that even though I knew that my belief as a digital nomad was off at this time, I knew that people wouldn't judge me because during a pandemic, it is totally fine to not travel. And people would still see me as the digital nomad because I had all the experience before that that proved that I was an expert in traveling. So at this point, I didn't change my own belief about what a digital nomad was. I changed the belief of how I thought others would perceive me. So there are two parts of an imposter syndrome where you can look at. And that's just the most important thing that you can do. But I want to talk about fear a little bit more because fear is like my number one topic. It's my name, it's my podcast topic, even though I don't talk about it that much. But yeah, it's my baby. It's something I have to talk about. I record IGTVs on it. I have Dutch podcast episodes about it. Fear is a big topic in my life. And not because I'm such a fearful person, but maybe I am. It's the funny thing is my name is Veerle, and the only way to correctly pronounce my name in English is to say fearless without the s's. But my nickname in Dutch has been Fearless, Veerle with a z at the end. So I have been listening to the name Fearless forever without realizing it. And when I finally recognized that my name in English was actual a word, fearless, I loved it. And I started to try to live more like a fearless person. I made this alter ego that wasn't afraid of anything. And it didn't make sense because I truly believe that you cannot live without fear. Fear is there to keep you safe, so it makes total sense. The difference is how you go about it. If you have a fearful thought about something, and it makes you freeze up and don't act on that fear, Well, if you listen to the fear, then it limits you. But you if you don't listen to the fear and just do it anyway, that's where the growth is. So I always tell people to listen to the fear, understand where it's coming from, thank it, and then move on. So if I'm afraid of, um, let's say I'm afraid of needles, that is really true. I'm really afraid of needles. And all right, I have to get this vaccination. And everything in my body says, no, don't do it. The needle is too scary. You shouldn't do it. I understand where the fear is coming from for me. It wants to keep me safe. It is safer to not, well, no, that's not really true in this case, but for the body, for the ego, it is safer to not have a needle enter your body with something, with a foreign substance. So it makes sense that my body screams no. So what I do is I understand it and I listen to it, but I thank it for trying to keep me safe, but I decide to do it anyway. I'm not listening to that fear. I know that in this case, the needle is going to help me. This needle is going to give me my freedom back. So I completely embrace my fear of needles, but don't listen to it. And I'm so grateful for that needle coming into my body. And I'm getting my first vaccine very soon, 2 days. Yeah, in 2 days. And I can't wait. I'm so excited for it because in my mind, that needle is connected to freedom, to my normal life. So I just focus on the good side instead of the bad side. So I have thanked the fear for trying to keep me safe and I chose to move on. And I think that's just the most important lesson about fear. It is fear exists, don't deny it. And I don't think being fearless is the best thing to do. I think you should fear less and not be fearless. And I love that word joke because people are always drawn to the fearlessness and think it's better to have no fears. But if you don't have any fears, you will end up killing yourself because fears are there for a reason. Fears are there to keep you safe. But you know which fears are real and which fears are not. And if the fear is just to protect you, to keep you in your comfort zone because it's easier, then you shouldn't listen to it. But if the fear is really about keeping you safe, keeping you alive, then of course listen to it. And I have this fear of driving a car. Um, when I was getting my driver's license, I was really tired and it was so much for me to do at once to drive the car, shift the gears, see everyone. Uh, just, it was a lot. So I never expected that I was gonna pass my driver's license test. So when the instructor said that I passed, I was crying my eyes out. I couldn't drive back home because I was just so in shock. And I decided to drive immediately, but the stupid thing was that at that time my parents only had automatic cars. And in Europe, in the Netherlands, it's normal to have non-automatic cars, so we shift gears and everything. And I haven't shifted gear since. We always have had automatic cars. And I'm happy to drive an automatic car because then I don't have to worry about shifting gears and everything. But the reason I'm telling you this is because the fear of getting in a car is real. I know that everything my mind is scared of is dying in a car. And even though I've been driving a car for 12 years now, 13 years now, and I'm still alive. So I have the track record that I am an excellent driver and I've never bumped into anything. So I am an excellent driver and I know that, but it is just too much for my mind to go back to shifting gear or drive the car on the other side of the road or anything. So I am completely fine with not doing that. I know that it is to keep me safe, and if it will hold me back, then I will do something about it. And last summer, when I started the podcast in Dutch, I actually took a driver's lesson to try to start drive cars again, but no, I it was just too much stress for me at this point. And I know that one day if I want to get a camper van and it's not an automatic one, it's fine. I will do something about it, but for now it is fine to have to live with this fear. And that's the thing. Fear exists and they are real. You just have to make sure that you pick your battles, that you know which fears are actually adding something or are actually holding you back. So that's the lesson that I wanted to give you. And it's for me, fear is so connected with the imposter syndrome because you are fearing how others perceive you. And you can change that by change the beliefs, but you can also change it by looking at the fear. Because I think the fear is illogical. Is it illogical? I don't know. You know what I mean. But yeah, I don't think that changes anything about what I just said. The fact that I don't have a word right doesn't matter. It's just a fear of me if I would decide to cancel this whole episode because of that one word. So I'm not gonna do that. I know you understand what I'm saying. So I'm just glad that I could explain this. And I really hope that this helps you with letting go of fears or letting go of the imposter syndrome. And if it helps you or if it resonates with you, please let me know. I love getting messages about what my podcast contributed to your life because I know I am recording this for a reason. There is someone who needs to hear this today. So please let me know if that was you. I love to get the conversation going and just get to know you and maybe help you a little bit more. So just reach out. You know how to do that. And otherwise, you will hear it in the outro of this podcast. So I'm really happy that you listened to it, and I can't wait to talk to you again. Bye. Thank you for getting along on my journey and listening to another episode of Fearless Adventure. Would you like more information on the topic of this episode? Then take a look at the show notes on fearlessadventure.nl. Give your opinion or want to screenshot this episode on Instagram, you can find me and tag me on Instagram at Fearless. That is Veerlez. Fearless. Can't wait to hear from you and see you next time.